Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition to the Ohio Guys here. My name is Christian Ocampo, and today I'm joined by another wonderful guest here today. We have Annie Wild here today. Hello, Annie.
Hi, how are you?
Doing good. A happy New Year's to you, and a
Happy.
great start of the new year.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy 2024. It's going to be
Yeah,
a good year.
you as well. I'm very happy to have you here. We've been trying to make this happen for quite a while now
Yeah.
for our viewers here, so happy we got that taken care of.
Yeah. I'm so happy to be able to do this, and this is the best way to start off my year. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Now, thank you. Appreciate you having you here, and can't wait to kind of get the ball running on your first interview here. So,
Yay. Absolutely.
so to get us started, tell us what is like working in the industry today.
You know, I I've said this before at different conventions, and I've said this just like amongst fellow VOs and friends and actors. Um, I think it is the coolest community. I'm so grateful every time that I get to go into the booth and get to also interact with like fellow anime fans and to get to bring something a little bit to life in our own ways and put our own spins on it that we don't always get to do in other aspects of the industry, whether we're doing like a theater show. Sometimes it's very set in stone, sometimes it's not. With film, it can be the same way. I feel like something that's really amazing about getting to be in the anime and dubbing community is that while there's certain things you have to follow, like lip flaps and time codes and fitting it all in, getting to have the freedom to really create and put your spin on something and just try it out is so cool, and I'll never take it for granted. Yeah. And just our welcoming, cool community. It's massive and wonderful and just like so inclusive. I'll never get over how cool that is. Yeah.
Excellent. It's good to hear you've had some great experience so far. Still being new to the industry,
Mm-hmm.
you getting your start with Sentai, High Dive, and build up your resume as well as co-mingling with your peers and colleagues that are also in the industry with you. So,
Yeah.
yeah, great positive vibes just going
Oh yeah.
into this industry.
Yeah. I'm thankful. I think also because it's something that I know a lot of people have, maybe had, like, we've all had our different journeys to get into it, and who are dubbing right now and who dubbed in the past. And I actually really love hearing people's stories who've been around for a really long time, and then ones like us who came in different ways and different avenues. It's like really neat to hear how everybody found their way in. And yeah, because I am newer than a lot of other VOs, it's like fun to also hear some like war stories, essentially, of back in the day when there was only this thing happening or just a few shows. Or now I feel like there's a show for every single person. We're flooded with them. Like any anime you want to watch, I swear you could find it. You could just be like, I want to watch, this, and this, and you can pop up with a show on High Dive, on any of these streaming networks. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so much content, so much libraries to hold. It's just a ever-changing industry and just so much need for new voices to fill those characters that come about. So definitely
Yeah.
an interesting time.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm glad to be one of those.
Yeah, and we're glad to see that you get to be part of that journey.
Yeah.
All right, and since you are still new, but why don't you tell us what is your favorite show you got to work on?
So I was brought in to audition for a show that I think actually never made it to like development. I think it was just kind of in the initial stages. And from there, actually, in that audition, Shannon Reed, one of the directors of Sentai, so incredible, was sitting in on that audition, and he had me come in and audition for the executioner in Her Way of Life. So I really went like 0 to 60. I had come in one other session for some kind of miscellaneous and Walla with Kyle Colby Jones, and another great, obviously amazing Sentai director. All of these guys are amazing. And that was kind of in that limbo when I was waiting to know if I booked any of the roles in The Executioner and Her Way of Life. And I auditioned for like all of them. And there's, if you've seen the show, there's a lot of women roles in it. And so it was something where I had like a couple of weeks of being in limbo, and then I found out that I booked the lead minnow. So I feel like I went 0 to 60 in a lot of ways. I just, had to both trust all of the training that I have as an actor and the years of experience I have, and like theater and film and like improv and cold reading and audition, and then be able to learn on my feet as well. And since it's a really complex process of dubbing, it's something that I'm really grateful that Shannon and Dave were so supportive, and that studio time I really cherish, how great that process was, and I'll always adore that show, and be so grateful. It's I feel like it's kind of rare that your first like big role you book is the lead, and so I'm really grateful for that. Yeah.
Those two, both Kyle and Shannon, amazing directors. They got great minds. I've had the honor of speaking to both of them in the past, and yeah, they just got great minds when it comes to being on the helm as directors, and they're amazing when it comes to giving new folks a shot in the studio and potentially landing as one of the mains.
Yeah.
Because they like to see new faces shine and grow when they get that kind of experience. So I'm glad you're actually working with those two guys, because
me too.
They know their stuff.
Yeah, and really all the directors at Sentai. I mean, like, I know we'll talk about, down the road, but working with John Swayze and also working with Joey is they're all four of them really are just like really incredible directors in their own right. And you kind of learn how, as an actor to approach working with each director. And that's a really important skill that we get. And I'm really grateful for that we get to hop around and learn how to, take notes in different styles and to translate what direction is needed for us in each of those moments. It's really cool to get to constantly be switching it up.
I agree with you on that one. They have their own styles. They have their own strengths when it comes to whether it be the genres or just the type of shows they get to direct. So you feel their style once you step in the booth with them.
I agree with that. Yeah.
And then talking about shows now, to kind of get us rolling to some of your past works, to start us off, what was it like working on Call of the Night?
I loved working on Call of the Night. Another one with Shannon, which was really cool. One of the things that was so fun about being Hatsuka was that Shannon does a good job when you book a role of kind of giving you a chance to like have, I don't know, just like a fun, like, hey, this character only says a few lines in this episode, but like there's some interesting things coming. And so you'll kind of be like, okay, I have no idea what that is. And if it's something that's out that you can look up online or look up, the manga or light novel or anything like that, Sometimes you have a chance to like kind of see who your character is a little bit more. But like, as you know, you've talked to, so many in our industry, there's so much that we don't know. And so it can be really fun, which it was for episode, I believe, 13, when Hatsuka really has, power move. And that was a challenging one, though, I will say, on keeping the voice and the energy and everything really contained. And like Hatsuka's so powerful that, she doesn't really have to like raise her voice to be heard or, really do much of anything to have people under their control. So it was kind of an interesting one to like have to record and be like, okay, tone it down. Okay, don't raise your voice here. Okay, like, let's keep it pretty neutral. And as an actor, you really want to be able to like, explore like the whole range of your voice or whatever. And to have to play somebody who is so powerful and soft-spoken was a really fun challenge for sure. And, of course, I hope to see more of Hatsuka in the future. So we'll see.
This one really piqued my interest when High Dive announced that they acquired it.
Mm-hmm.
There was something about the cover art, the coloring, the character design, just seeing that, and then when they talk about that had to do with vampires. I'm a big fan of vampires. I'm more a big fan of how do you utilize that concept, because there's different ways you can do it. And Call of Night use it in its own unique way.
Yes.
Especially when you're watching it, you're seeing more of the nightlife and a new lighting. And again, not to make a pun or anything, but just a beautiful coloring. They use so many different colors because we're used to more when it's vampires, it's pure dark, no colors, it's limited. However, Call of Night did a full utilization on colors and different nights and different variations, and it gave it more of an appeal. And the music, like the music.
It's like you're so right. Like they utilize so many colors, and I think it goes with the music too. Like you feel the vibrant colors that they use in the art and the music. Like it makes me want to be able to walk the streets at night and like have my own adventure. It makes, it wouldn't be the safest thing here versus in Japan, but I think that it's like, it's just so incredible and actually that's one of my favorite, I will say, when people bring Call of the Night art or like posters or the Blu-ray for me to sign or like the manga, it's been really fun because it's just so beautiful to look at that I'm always just like so tickled to sign anything, that, because I'm like, oh, I love it too. Like, and Natalie and Gabe did incredible in their lead roles with that. Like, I mean, the whole cast is incredible, but it's so fun. Like, they're so extraordinary. And it was just, I can't imagine two better actors for those roles,
Indeed. Everyone's performance, you and your fellow colleagues did an amazing job just giving a different flavor and that vampire as well as that adolescence genre, giving Call of Night it's kind of its own identity and establishing its own fingerprints when it comes to vampires, when it comes to modern day, the nightlife, the modern day middle school / high school age. So it really was able to stand on its own and just covering in different genres and subgenres.
Oh, totally.
And yes, I'm really hoping to see more because of how well established it's stuff in this season. I really hope as a fan they put like another one with more good music. Yes.
Yeah.
And just see how far more they can go with the story, how far they can capture the audience attention, just
Yeah.
because already these characters are beloved in such a short amount of time.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. And here's hoping that fans loving it brings more seasons around, you know.
Yes, and let's hope to see what 2024 unfolds and what it brings forth. So that we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah.
Now here's another one, just staying the topic of nighttime, nightlife, and this one has been a very popular one, Pat, in 2023 and even in 2022. We're talking about Eminence in the Shadow. What's the opinion on that one?
Oh my gosh. So I had worked with John Swayze before, but just kind of on some of the other projects, and had no idea how big Eminence was going to, be, in the sense that people have loved it and taken to it and found, favorite characters. And so ultimately going in, I was just so excited to get to work with John again and to get to work on a new show. And I remember going into the first episode and being like, this is like, I paused, at the mic. I was like, this is really funny writing, and I was like, this is a really funny show, or like, this is good, and so every time that I'm in the booth as Beta, I'm always commenting on like, this is so clever, this is so funny, like, oh, that like pulled at my heartstrings, like, and it's not that that isn't the case whenever you go into the booth. It's just that it's so consistent that every episode I love recording, and it's been a fun challenge to, like, people will, ask about it's the show I have the hardest time, I'll say, keeping a lid on. It's been kind of a fun challenge of people say, oh, like, I hope to see you in other episodes, and you'll be like, you'll know that there's such a fun episode that you just did, and you're like, me too. But yeah, really, to be a part of the Shadow Garden has been a blast. And Adam Gibbs is a good friend of my partner Jeremy G and I. Actually, Jeremy just did a theater show in Houston with him, and I think Adam is such an incredible Sid, and it makes it even more enjoyable whenever we're playing off of him, since he's such a great actor. And and like, to be, the lead of the Shadow Garden, Christina Kelly, who's a friend, it was like a really neat experience to have these two actors who are so seasoned and so fantastic that you feel like you're in good hands, like the other Shadow Garden gals. In my opinion, I feel like they really bring such great performances that it's so fun and easy for us to play off of what's happening with each other. And it's like the Shadow Garden I have so much fun. I never know who's recorded before me. So sometimes I'll be like, oh my God, okay, like, okay, that's Delta. Okay, Delta's already recorded, you know what I mean? Like, that's Raven. And like, popping around and just being like, okay, Ellen has already gone in for her Epsilon stuff. So like, I'll have a little bit more to play off of there. It's just a blast. I'll always be so grateful, and I will happily dub Beta until everybody is sick of Eminence and Shadow. I'm like, give us 20 seasons. Like, let's keep it going.
Yeah, this one was a big surprise. Again, when High Dive and Sentai announced its acquirement, just the trailer, the artwork behind it, it really captured my attention, just because they did say it was an isekai, and I'm big isekai. I know right now people have really gone through the phase, they've had their fill of the buffet. I get it. However, I'm one of those that is willing to see, okay, this isekai genre, what spin, what different nuances can you throw at it? That way it can still stand on its own, even though there's hundreds of titles that sit in that same genre. And Eminence did a great job. Try and be different. Try establish its own story. Kind of poke fun of its own genre and the way it does it.
Yes, Christian, like I so agree with that. People have asked me what's different, like what makes Eminence stand apart as an isekai versus like others, and I'm like that it's self-aware in its humor, and that there's like, to me, there's so much heart that like it does any time that like some of our classic jokes and, you know, character types and all of that are at play with the isekai genre. I'm always just like, but the humor is self-aware and it's smart and it knows what it is and it doesn't shy away from it, but it doesn't also like talk down to isekai fans. It's just like, hey, we all know why we're here and we're here together enjoying this, right? You know, that's how I feel about it. Yeah.
And yes, like we said, the way it unveils itself, the way it lets the audience know that, yes, this is isekai, but it's more than that. It's more than just telling the same jokes or going through the same phases, the same journey like other isekais. This one, especially, it can still be serious with its still telling story. It's still, there's know that there is imminent danger. There is potential for threats, risks, because it still has some of that Game of Thrones flavor thrown into that. So you know that, kind of joking aside, you know, there's bigger matters to attend to.
Yeah.
So it still keeps us in track when taking us episode by episode.
Totally agree with that. I totally agree. And Jeremy and I are rewatching Game of Thrones right now, and so I was like, that's so funny you said that, because I was just recently being like, yeah, like season 2 feels very much some Game of Thrones elements in it. Also, sorry if you can hear, we have a giant dog upstairs above us in our apartment.
That's okay. All is good. And yes, because especially when it does take place in like medieval or kind of 1600s, 1700s, I guess that type of century setting, you know there's going to always be a power struggle. You know that people are going to kind of seem reminiscent of the Game of Thrones characters. So there's no helping that, but it's always that kind of good type of tension where it's like, okay, we know how high the risks are. We know how big these power struggles are. We might as well sit back and see what happens, what unfolds. So it keeps that. And also, another thing I want to point out, because when I do these interviews, I always like to recommend them to viewers. I do just want to address that this can get also very violent, very bloody at times.
Yes, very.
Yes, and also it can get very strongly sexual at times, and not for the sake of it, not just because it's bitter, but because it does play a big intricate role when it comes to societal norms, when it does come to, again, the power struggles, when it comes to gay marriages. It does have a bit of that dynamic where it's there, but you see why it's there, and at times it can kind of turn your stomach, because in a way you have to acknowledge it, and because it does play certain key roles when we're trying to discover certain characters, as well as what's happening, getting us from point A to point B all the way to Z. So I don't recommend this for younger viewers.
No,
But
I
like,
always tell people when they come to my like a signing table, or if we're like interacting in person, I'm like, I do not recommend Eminence for a young audience ever, as tempting as it might be for people because it's a very popular show. I don't think that a young audience, probably that it would be the best thing. You know, I know parents use their judgment, you know, the best way, but I think more something like Call of the Night is a good one for younger audiences comparatively to, yeah, Eminence. I probably wouldn't have started Eminence until I was in high school, I think, if I was a young viewer.
and just covering on that, I do put it more for like the older generation, not because they're just older, but looking for something new, something
Yeah.
fresh, something that can put them on the edge of the seat, something they might not seen before. Maybe to the point that again they might be really sick of the isekai.
Yeah.
They might have seen almost everything under the sun, so it's a kind of good way to kind of get a good change of pace, whether it be for the story, the characters, whatever. It's got something unique to offer to new eyes of the product.
I agree.
So yeah, then at this time recording, the uh, the cover art for the movie has already been dropped at this point.
Yeah.
It looks amazing.
It
We're
does look amazing. Ah. Um, so who knows? I mean, I just yeah, like I said, I will I will happily dub beta as long as they will have me.
and yes, really hoping that the movie will get an anime dub
Mhm.
whenever Japan is done with their works and sends it over to United States. I'm
Exactly.
really I'm excited. I've never seen that kind of transition before. You know, not no spoil. It's hard to say it's a spoiler, but as I have seen the art, everyone's seeing kind of ravaged modern day Japan.
Yeah.
Uh, so you is basically giving a hint that they're going to go back to Japan modern times, and this we cannot wait to see what the story is going to be told when trying to do isekai, but going backwards of isekai. So
Yeah.
the potentials is endless right there.
Yeah. And there is something I think to the fact that once they decided to play with the genre itself, I think that part of me loves that. I'm like, will this kind of create its own mini genre of what isekai can be? Is it going to be like, oh, it's classic isekai, or it's like Eminence isekai? So maybe.
That good point right there. I think right now Eminence is really pulling out some of the pavement, some of the groundwork for future isekais, which directions they want to go to. Now that we're going to get into further in the future, so
Yeah,
yeah, I'm happy what they're doing, and they're establishing some good work right now.
I think so.
All right, and then to kind of transition from Wando Dark Isekai for more heart-batted Isekai. This one is Farming in Another World. What's
Uh,
everything on that show?
it was just fun to be in the booth with Swayze again for this, especially because there's so Flora, who I dub, is so silly. But I'm also actually, I love to cook in real life. And so the fact that she's obsessed with like fermentation and the process and learning about that was just like so fun and silly. And, you know, with some shows, you like get to have little moments that delight you more than even probably any viewer. And I had so much fun just being like lighthearted, silly, and food obsessed, because I feel like that's three things that I would kind of say in my own life. You know, I love to cook and I love to eat and I love to host people for food and dinners and stuff. And this silliness kind of from it. But it was also, it was such a stacked, fun, giant cast. Like to recognize so many voices, whether again it's my partner Jeremy or like friends in there, or like, just across the board, it just was like such a massive fun cast that you kind of are just, having fun championing everybody's performance in it. And really, something that I liked about it were like that, like her little mission to go find, to like go forage in the forest or whatever. It's like, I love that it was a show that I had been doing a lot of like, kind of like, not like heavier, but there's like a lot of like weight to it. It felt like a nice thing to be like, the biggest thing that she has to deal with is like, oh no, like this experiment didn't work, this food thing didn't work. I was like, oh, that's nice. I'm like leaving the booth today being like, haha, that was a lovely time, versus like, oh, I'm like really worried about the fate of my character,
Yeah, this was just those simple, just life from the farm, making the village bigger. Every time they get bigger, new characters arrive that want to live in that world or that village.
Yeah.
And you get to see like all the personalities, all their specialty. Some are good at cooking, some are good at, making liquor, or they know how to harvest, forage, hunting. Everyone had like a special job description that it helped making the village even bigger. And that made this show more special, just seeing how everyone collaborates in this farming life.
Yeah, and I in my own viewing of anime, like move back and forth between what I'm enjoying watching, and I know we all do that. We show hop and have multiple things we're watching, but it's a nice one when somebody will say like, what have you done that like is something that I could like be having like a bad day, and like I don't want to really think about like big things going on in the world, or I don't want a show that's going to remind me of that. Sometimes I'll be like, I think farming life might be one you'll enjoy, because it's just like, something, again, what you said, it's like, really, it's like this community coming together in its own way. And of course, shenanigans and all of that and everything. But to me, there's something that I'm like, yeah, if you need like something like lighthearted, I have like my lighthearted list, or lighter than, than say Eminence or something.
And yes, lighthearted, very, very good for the soul when just watching the show, because it always has like certain special moments, special build-ups, especially towards the very last episode, which I think set off on a good note on that. So I'm really hoping they will consider season 2, just so we can keep giving us more on kind of what's happening after that progression.
Yeah, me too.
Seeing that village getting more bigger, hopefully more characters to show up, and just see how they go day to day, making different recipes, maybe the way they grow their crop, and just other small little inventions to kind of help make the farming life a bit more easier, even though it can get tough at times. But there's other methods to soften the hard work. So it's just amazing just seeing just a simple farming show.
I know, and it makes me also, I mean, one day I would love to have a garden, and whenever I'm like see shows like this, I'm like, I want a garden. I want a tiny farm with chickens and like grow fresh vegetables. And I do have a lemon tree in real life, a tiny one, like a potted one. And it had 29 lemons this year. So I did feel like when I was in the kitchen experimenting with lemon recipes, I felt very much like Flora. I was like, cool, I got this.
Wow. So, they do say sometimes life can imitate art. So that's a perfect example.
Okay, there you go.
So yeah, I mean, very good show. I recommend everyone to check it out if they haven't. Just a way to kind of decompress everyday life, and a bit like I do consider to be a bit of like a palate cleanser. People have been watching too many of a certain genre, or just something to kind of kick back, watch something peaceful, no threats of dangers appearing. It's just all simple everyday life in the farm.
I love it. Yeah.
So yeah, so check it out anyone is watching this because it does help. It does heal the heart at times.
Yeah.
All right, and then here's another show that had I've also acquired a while back, and this one is Vermeil and Gold. Who else
Yeah.
in that show?
Yeah, and again, on my another one with John Swayze, which was so fun, and that was one I did actually before Eminence and before farming. So, I had a blast on it. Mainly, also we were saying like the challenge of Hatsuka of the kind of keeping everything kind of tame vocally and everything. I liked that I got to play with a character who was so underwhelmed by everything. And also just kind of, again, like the time, and there were times that she got to that Cheryl got to be a little bit like more outraged. But it's fun playing those characters that are like very consistent in a show that what kind of jokes they're bringing. So as an actor, it's really fun to know when you have to keep things very like tamped down and then when you get to have like your little explosive moments. But that show was also it's interesting because it's one of those things where Monica Rial is so has such a prolific career as a VO and is so wonderful. And it was really cool in the booth to actually hear her like just incredible work. And so again, to like go in, she had usually done everything by the time like I got in there, all of, her part of that episode. So again, like having, a chance to really like hear her and go like off of that, it's like you get these little moments where you're learning from really great VOs. You're having a chance to also hear other people's takes on something and have a good laugh, or to be like, wow, like I want to be that good one day, those kind of moments. And that was like a totally like a VO masterclass to hear her just go in. And I think because she's so busy and constantly working, to give her credit, she was going in there and doing tons of episodes at a time to fit in with her schedule and killing every single one of them. So really my experience from that was, having fun playing with such a subtle character who got to have like these little comedic explosions and getting to play with a little bit of like a quiet, not nerdy voice, but that, and then also to really have fun hearing really great actors and learning from them. Yeah.
This show was very interesting just because it's more of those shows where it's a mixture of action, comedy, a bit of that rom-com taste, and the artwork, just the character designs, and again, just the way the characters, the way they interact with each other, made the show special just because of just trying to be different from other shows that also, again, they play on multiple genres at the same time, but these try to make a point on why it's a different show than some of the others, especially with Maka's character, for example, just her being a demon.
A demon, yeah.
Yeah, especially with being with a student, and that new concept where a student kind of has a demon as their companion, as their support. Not many shows have done that. I'm pretty sure they have, but probably not to this extent when just watching that character dynamic, the way they play off each other. And I thought that was interesting, especially when they bring your character in. Every character is special, one with the other, when it comes to the combat aspect or when it comes to challenges. especially shows really jam-packed when it comes to its action,
Yeah.
when it comes to developing some sort of this was like a play on a challenge because it's big
Mhm.
where they're at and it matters a lot. So you do see as an audience that you have a character you want to root for, they want to see persevere, and does a
Yes.
great job just trying to always keep a level of threat that it's there, and every move, every thought process is thought about as if playing a game of chess, and
Hmm.
that's very amazing. Just seeing how they can all juggle that all at once.
Yeah.
And I also do want to point out again another show that does fall in that itchy category, you know,
Hmm. Yeah.
because
I definitely think that anybody who is uncomfortable with any like kind of sexual situations or innuendos or anything like that should probably not watch it. It highly leans on a lot of that, and so I think that if somebody does not like that, it's not the show for them, and that's okay because there's a zillion shows out there, like we were saying, like, and High Dive has so many incredible ones. So,
yeah, and this one especially, like you said, it does play a lot on those tensions. This one really feels like it doesn't hold back. It
yeah,
really goes there, and me, especially me as a guy, when I'm seeing kind of the colorways, kind of the change of scenery, I know it's like they went there. We just didn't see it, but they
yeah,
went there just off camera. So
yeah,
this one really tries to up the ante on in that
yeah,
concept. So yes, it's there, and for those that don't have the stomach for it, then yes, I would suggest maybe hold this off, maybe for another time, or may may not just recommend it on your list just because
yeah.
of that. So yeah, just want to rotate to the next show, and
Hmm.
just going back in full circle. We're going to talk about the executioner and her way of life. Let's dive deep
Yeah,
into that one.
yeah. So, with the executioner and her way of life, um, like I was saying at the beginning, just with it being my really like my first role and my first, and really my in so many ways my favorite role that I think it's kind of a tie sometimes between Menno and Beta of like, like who has my heart the most that day. But what I loved so much about that show, um, and what I know some people, didn't like about it was that the bait and switch of it being about, a male lead, and then it turns into a show where it's largely, you know, all women and girls who are the leads of these, adventures and fights and, the whole plot centering around Minnow. And I know in the dub we say Akari, but it's Akari in, the manga and traditional. But with that friendship and that dynamic and that ultimately it's like I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but just kind of the whole journey between the two of them and what has to be done, and will Menno ever be able to accomplish it? But the fact that I got to play a teenage assassin who doesn't want to be an assassin and desperately, needs purpose and like, also has lost so much and absorbed, the words and teachings of people that she's now starting to question. It's really an interesting, like, crux for her that she's has to figure out who she wants to be, and yet with her past erased and with her, memories like erased trying to figure that out is a really hard thing for her. And I had a lot of, fun with all of the different moments in it, but also at the heart of it, I'll always love that she's just struggling with her identity and who she is and what she has to do and all of those things that make it a really dynamic show. And also the fact that she's not alone in that. The other characters are doing that. And then there's the fact that like the end of season 1 is this massive cliffhanger. So if people like stopped watching it, after a few episodes and thought like, oh, I know what the show is, they really don't, and I'm also having the privilege right now of the first volume came out of the audiobook of The Executioner and Her Way of Life, and Yen Press had, has a partnership with a publishing company in New York. I'm going to say it wrong. It's either Hachette, because it's French, or I don't know if we've butchered it in America and it's like Hatchet or whatever audio, but they are the English, rights holders. And so they reached out to me to see if I wanted to dub or I guess I'm so used to saying dub, to narrate the whole book. And so I've now that's been released for volume 1. So hopefully there will be all 8 volumes. And then if there are others, I will narrate or dub Menno until they say no more. But I am just really in love with the story itself. I think it's captivating, it's exciting, it's pretty badass, if I'm allowed to say that on here. And I think, there's a lot of anime that doesn't always focus around like really tough women more than like 1 or 2 characters, and sometimes those serve the arc of a main like male lead character. And it's really cool that in this world there's so many powerful women, and that it's like about life or death situations and saving the world or saving time or saving a city and things like that. And I just am really grateful that the first show that I really got to be entrusted with is centered around so many strong women and girls, and powerful, and some really scary and evil, and some it's a cool feeling to again be entrusted with that. I'm sorry I talked so long about that. I could talk forever about The Executioner in a Way of Life.
You're good. This one is one of those shows that there's so much to unpack, just because it is an isekai, but not the isekai that people traditionally think of.
Yeah.
Because it after kind of the first episode, you watch it, they can really kind of get a sense on what the direction is going to be and what kind of atmosphere is establishing. Because for me, watching the show, it did feel a bit dreary. It did feel a bit nihilistic at times, just because on how decimated that isekai world has gone through when it comes to just having the concept where that world is taking in high school age students that come from modern day Japan, and the influence they have had, especially mostly the way has been that it's been of consequences. And just kind of seeing that dynamic play out, with Menno and everyone else, how that has influenced the way of thinking, the way of life, just everything, because it is a huge scale or a huge world-class scale to think about whenever they are receiving these high schoolers from different world, and that devastation is catastrophic, and you can understand why they think this way, but at the same time you feel a bit of a pinch where you do wish there was been more sympathy at times, because the outcome, their solution, is just kind of a very depressing one and a very
Yeah.
hard to swallow one, because you would think there would be another way instead of the one way they've been doing things.
Yeah.
And you would think like there should be some sort of mercy, some sort of alternative that can get them away from the same tactics, the same resolution they've been doing for
Yeah.
years.
And I would, and I say this because I don't want to sound ignorant of the other, volumes of it. Season 1, I believe, covers volumes like 1 and 2 of the manga, or the light novel, really. But I know that I'm curious, as even just a viewer or a reader, of, if that is able to be addressed. I think there's a lot of stories and like movies and TV and books where everyone's convinced there's one way of doing things, and then there's an alternate way, and maybe it's more merciful, like you're saying, or maybe it's, or just a kinder way or an alternate way. And I think that's what's so engaging about Menno, is like, she doesn't like being an assassin. She actually is like, she basically is like, I will take on this awful role to save other girls from having to be this. And that she did, with like, I think a really big heart, ultimately, to be a little girl and decide, I would rather take on this burden than Momo, even though Momo's, a Netzo, also badass, junior assassin, really, apprentice. But, I think it's also something that, like, she, because she doesn't relish in it, that's one of the things that I like about her. It's like yeah, of course, when she's fighting, any of the villains, there's a tough element that I think is fun, and like just a really like action movie nitty gritty shonen element of it that's really fun. But I do like that she isn't like a just serial killer who loves it, And that to me is important, because it gives weight behind the violence. And I don't really like violence just for violence sake in any shows I watch or dub.
Just as a viewer, I would just say that Minnow, she would kind of be fathering in the same belief from another fictional character, video game, Joshua Graham from Fallout New Vegas, where she does enjoy killing, but it's just like any other chore, like any other. So you could say that because they both follow the church, they don't, like you said, ration it. It's not something they enjoy, but they know either be for the sake of the church or just in their beliefs that it's not something that they want to do, that they are going to enjoy it, but they know that this has to be taken care of, that they need to have this result. So I could say that during that they stand on the same belief system on that.
I agree with that. Yeah.
And then on that note, as you mentioned, just seeing that dynamic between Menno and Akari, that friendship, that bond they have, it's a very special bond, that especially for the female audience members, when they are seeing it, they can kind of relate themselves to their friends, just seeing that the way they take on that build of friendship, that bond. Yeah. So it's very good. I would say it's very eye-opening for the female audiences that are just seeing different characters that come about, whether it be a Momo, whether it be some of the other characters that show up later on. You see that each of them have their own strengths and weaknesses. Some are good at fighting, some are good at critical thinking, some are good at delegation, others are good at manipulation, tactics, or just seeing the way they kind of handle certain aspects throughout the story. So each female character, you see that okay, this one is good at something, but you can see their weaknesses, just as much as their strengths.
Yeah.
So it does
Yeah.
play a big part in this whole show.
I agree. Yeah. And I like that. I like playing a flawed female character. And again, it's nice that amongst the women, it's, there's a nice thing that, again, it's like life or death situations and saving the world or saving a city or saving whatever it may be, or trying to save an individual. And again, that's fun to play because that isn't always the case of what roles exist out there. And I think, my hope is that more people over time will watch it and will give it a chance. And yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll see how the series goes. Hopefully, if it does get a season 2 and goes as far as a season 3, 4, as long as they tell a story like what's going to happen between Minokari, the other characters that are still around, what dynamics are they going to play as the story goes on further.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we just got waiting to see how the new year and the following year are going to how they're going to have this show going forward.
Totally.
All right, now we can definitely change up the genres. I think we've covered isekais. Now here's something a little different. Another show that was acquired by High Dive a while back, and this one is Phantom of the Idol. What was like looking at that one?
So fun. I don't think I've ever laughed as hard. I mean, I will say for Maiden Abyss, I think I laughed about as hard when I dubbed Ma. And I say that because both are with Kyle, and when you're going to go into the booth with Kyle, you're going to laugh a lot just because I know you've talked to him. He's just such a silly individual and like super great director, and also is able to bring like levity into most any situation. But what was so fun with this was I've gotten to play with my voice the most with the characters that I work with, Kyle. So for Phantom of the Idol, one of the things that just was so immediately fun and silly was he was like, your character is very soft-spoken and also like unhinged. Like they are the most diehard fans ever, and I couldn't love that more. Just having it be like they're so crazy, they're so devoted, and that there are people like that in real life, like because we see it everywhere, all over the internet, fans who would do anything for pop stars and pop groups and just recording artists in general. And I had so much fun being so like demure and also unhinged. Like there's no like middle ground with her, and I just loved it. And also Alyssa Merrick and Christina Kelly, and I, because we're friends in real life, it was fun to also, I just laugh every time I watch an episode because, I think we all had so much fun being just bonkers, crazy, supportive, loyal, obsessed. And I think that, idol shows, again, similar to like farming, it's nice to, the high stakes being about this made up pop group can be something that's a really nice palate cleanser and fun and silly. And I love that our group always meets at a restaurant to eat and, cheer on the zings. And and I'm grateful that like Kyle again lets me play with vocal variety. Because it is fun and silly to do and can be really rewarding as an actor. So, yeah.
Just covering the idol subculture, it is one that people can look at the internet, can find videos, and there's other animes that do cover that genre. And
Totally.
yes, kind of seeing that lifestyle, seeing how idols, how they kind of handle their profession, and when they're outside that profession, like you said, whether it be doing like everyday things, whether it be something to kind of decompress from themselves in that very hard, that very tough industry. And so one can imagine that they would have certain thoughts just trying to how they engage with like the fans or
Yeah.
people in the industry. Because it's always unique just saying, okay, you got idols, but each idol will always have their own thoughts. They don't always think the same, but they will always have something that will still give them a reason why they're still in the industry. And then when they step away, you get to see how do they just go every day like a normal life as if they weren't in the industry. So
Yeah. And again, it's like just it's such a fun show, and like I think, because I've done 2 idol shows with this, of Phantom of the Idol and then your boy Kong Ming. I think for me, what's been fun about them is again, like, if somebody really doesn't like violence, if they need something lighthearted, if they, are feeling heavy about the world, I just think that they're really great shows to, like you said, kick back and watch or put on, and just like, if the highest stakes are about the singing competition, or whether or not they become the #1 group, it can be really enjoyable to have a good like laugh or smile about that, or feel invested in those characters or those situations, and also to be able to not, think about, things that are maybe making you feel a little overwhelmed. And if I can bring a little bit of like joy to somebody who's having a hard day by being insanely supportive and screaming about a fake pop group, it makes me happy, being like I brought maybe a laugh to somebody who's having a hard day. And that does feel good about, both you boy Kong Ming and Phantom of the Idol.
and just going back to this genre,
Mm-hmm.
I think another appeal why this can get eyes or people take the chance to watch it is you will get that kind of like that real life dialogue, almost that kind of self-awareness where they talk about their industry, where they do talk about things in real life, and have like little perspective where you have different characters kind of address that, where they talk about, hey, this is what I think of this, and that person talk about, okay, this kind of thing. It always helps when there's that realness behind it, when everything's authentic, when they are talking about something for real, and then you as the audience, you determine, okay, yeah, there's some truth behind that, or you might be like, maybe that's a little too far fetched. I don't think the same way, but yes, I do want to acknowledge that what they're saying, there still has some wallet behind it, but may not be the full direction that I would think the same way as this person. So dialogue is big. The way it's said, the way it's conveyed, the way it can be portrayed in a show like this one here. And when you can find the right kind of balance, the right chemistry, the show just takes off on its own, because you know that these characters can always feel real. You can't suspend that disbelief behind this a show like this one here.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's like, it's just fun to have I'm just grateful for the variety. Like, it's cool to sit here and talk with you about shows that are all so very different. And even the ones that are similar, to be like, it's so nice to have the privilege to work with, different directors and different genres. And hopefully people enjoying, what characters I'm dubbing, or just the shows in general, even if it's nothing to do with what I individually am bringing. If they're loving what we collectively are bringing, is cool.
Yes, indeed. And especially as an actor, you was like making the big painting have more colors to it, while everyone else puts out their own colors to make that picture a full. So it's always a bit of a team effort, big collaboration, just making that blank canvas. I'm sorry, I'm butchering it,
No,
into a full illustration once the work has been put out.
I agree. I love that.
And turning the wheels again, because you really mentioned another show that was similar to it, and that's Boy Ming. While we go into that one as well.
Yeah, that was totally fun in a different way that it actually what I really loved about that because it had a more serious tone and again it was like such an incredible cast with it. But I really liked that it explored actually what I think a lot of not I know because they've said with their own words, a lot of like female performers in the industry, pop performers, music industry performers, what they've gone through with like having to change up their identity to serve, you know, people making money off of them versus who they really are as artists. And you know, the Azalea group that my character is a part of, it goes through that. Like it's actually kind of a heartbreaking story, and that has a really good payoff. But to me, I looked at that and I was like, oh, I know what it's like to be in this industry and feel like certain times that you have to make a decision between conforming to what you know, society wants you to be or do, and then what you feel like, you know, you want to do, and also like who you are as a performer, who you are as a person, who you are as an actor. And so I actually loved that they have a really good arc as a girl group, but also that it didn't shy away from exploring, you know, that topic of identity and self and believing in yourself as you are and standing up for yourself and all of that. So oh, my camera froze. Hold on, I think it's back. Is that? But yeah, just kind of like I love that it explored identity, standing up for yourself, believing in yourself. And I think the whole premise, and Joe Daniels does such a good job as well, you know, in that as Kong Ming or the general, or it's just kind of such a fun way to approach an idol show. And yeah, I think that I'm just really glad that that show left me like choked up at the end in a really good way. Like I was like, oh, my heart, you know, it was, yeah, and such a great cast. Like all the women in that show are incredible. And, you know, again, it's like we're so fortunate that our community goes so deep talent wise that I just feel like I watch shows all the time and it's just this like, you know, especially like Texas VO community just coming through, just being, in my opinion, a very talented, very deep in the talent, you know, community. And that feels cool to be a part of.
And Joe Daniels, amazing guy. Another person
amazing. Such a good friend, yeah.
I got a chance to interview him back during the COVID days. So
wow.
Yeah, amazing performer, just his voice, the way he's able to kind of step into the shoes of different types of guys. Like you not know it's him until you see his name, because there are times I'm surprised. Totally. Like I was like, that's Joe. It's like no way. Like just because you've seen him, you really seen pictures, or you probably seen the video of my interview. You just think like, oh, he was able to voice this character that looks nothing like him.
And really, I get so he is one of Jeremy's best friends, and a very close friend of mine now, and he and Jeremy, and then their other best friend Cameron Nunley, who's our roommate right now. They are like incredible, all with switching up their voice and being like, you'll be like, you voiced that, you did that, and I'll even tell Jeremy, I'll be like, I don't recognize your voice right here. This is amazing. And I think what has been very fun is they have a D&D campaign they've had for years now, the three of them, and now a fourth individual as well. And I essentially get to hear a million characters all the time when they do, their campaigns. So you can imagine with that depth of talent, like it just makes, I'll be in the other room and I'll be like, you could swear there was like 3 other individuals there, or like a crowd of, different voice actors, because the 3 of them are just like transforming their voice. Yeah. So.
Oh, if only I could see the video of that. That'd be hilarious.
Listen, I have been saying to them, but I think it'll be a closed door thing.
Understandable. That's a different can of worms to open up. So I can respectfully understand that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to kind of cover your Boy Ming. Another reason why I enjoy the idol genre, and again, not everyone's gonna like it because it either feel a bit too much, too saturated. Mm-hmm. I always enjoy seeing that camaraderie with the girls whenever they are, again, together. Yeah. They can always open up to each other. They can always identify with each other, especially, again, just in that industry in itself.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the same, wouldn't really make much sense if they tried to combine with a male, because that male, he's not an idol. If he was, it wouldn't be in the same playing field as what they are doing. So it always helps that they really have their fellow idol member that they can always just open up to discuss certain things, because they're in the same trenches together.
Yeah.
They know the battlefield just as much as each other, and just even with just how they deal with everyday life when they're not idling, they know that it does play a part outside of idling, rather how they have to carry themselves, present themselves, whether it be to family members, to, I guess you could say, there are some cases classmates, their friends, or just when they're walking down the city streets. They know that they walk the same path, and they can find times where, okay, maybe they're not unsure of things, so they know they can always turn to each other when it comes to addressing those aspects in life.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, I'm just hoping we can get more of this genre, especially if this, and shows like these, if they do get their own extra seasons, perfect. Because there's always a story to be told, especially from the perspective of the idols. They're always experiencing something until the day they retire from idling, whenever they decide to do something else in life. You're there for the journey. You're there to see how long they're going to stay. Again, whether they get too old for it, whether it's like, hey, this is as far as I'm willing to ride, it's time for me to do something else. And it does become more impactful just knowing that sooner or later, the end game will be approaching for these idols. So yeah, so it all comes together sooner or later.
Yeah.
All right, and then on that note, now it's time for a funny question I like to ask everybody. If you could be any character you have played in real life, who will you be? And you can mix and match.
Yeah, so I think I have thought about that I wouldn't want to be somebody who like it would be too hard to be Menno. Like I don't want the fate of the world. Like I don't want to be just, an assassin. I think it would be fun though. Beta would be a fun one because I do love to write. and I love reading, and Beta loves that. And she's got this secret, you know, her alias is, you know, this famous author, which is really fun. And I think it's, I mean, I really do love that the Shadow Garden has each other, and it would be really neat, even though they're competitive with each other over, you know, Lord Shadow's, you know, attention. It is, they're there for each other, and they like care, you know, they care deeply about each other, and they have each other's back, and they're like this, excuse me, this fierce female friendship. So to me, there is something that would be fun to be Beta and to have the powers that she has. She is very powerful. But it would be kind of fun to just be like maybe my character from Phantom of the Idol, like somebody as chill as Shigetaru, because she, like, her, it feels like her biggest thing in life is like getting to have a great meal with her friends and be so obsessed with a pop group. And if life was that simple sometimes, that like, you know, sometimes life can be just like completely overwhelming. And if, you know, her whole existence, it seems like, is to have two best friends, love a pop group, and like have a really good beer and meal with her friend group. And to me, that feels like it would be really fun. But, you know, Jeremy and I actually were talking about this, about, it was kind of like, who would you want to be and who would you, and, you know, then there's the part of you that sometimes wants to be like, I want to be the powers of this person with the, you know, like the chill life of this one and like the community of this one. But I feel like if any of my characters mixed and matched, it would maybe be like the positivity of Ma from Made in Abyss, and like the the unbridled love for that that Ma has for, you know, everybody, with like the chill life of like the characters from Phantom of the Idol. And maybe like, I don't know, are like the powers, the friendship, the, you know, secret successful career that Beta has. Maybe it's just like all of those. It's like more positivity than Beta has, sometimes some more downtime than she has, you know. So, but yeah, but probably Beta, I think, you know. It's like it's a hard life to beat, I think, right now compared to some of the others. So yeah.
And it's always just fun to ask because everyone has their own perspective, certain traits, certain abilities that each character has. One would like to kind of like take like each piece by piece and put it together, which
Yeah.
It's just fun just hearing everyone's take on what they would envision seeing if they could put these differences into just mesh it all together in just one character.
Yeah, I think that's something I'm also, you know, when I was thinking about it too, it's kind of like, I don't know, and kudos to somebody who was like, I would take that exact character's life and personality traits and everything. I think it's always, for me, going to be a mix and match, because there are things you love and dislike about each of the characters you get to dub. And so for me, it's I think always going to be a mix and match. And if I ever find a character that I 100% am like that character in a heartbeat, I probably surprise myself.
Yeah, you put together quite the mix. So
Yeah.
and it's I enjoy hearing every bit about it. All right, now to the next question. Is there anything coming out that you can't talk about, or is there anything that you want to plug in at this time?
Well, there is something that I think they're almost going to announce that I wish I could say, but I'm very excited about it, dubbing wise. And then I will definitely say, I will plug that I am so honored and excited again that I got to narrate Volume 1 of The Executioner and Our Way of Life, which you can get on Audible and I believe, all main platforms for like audiobooks, and really, really grateful for that opportunity. And also that if there are any Houston theater audiences who are interested in coming to see it, I'm in a play upcoming at Stages called Laughs in Spanish, which is going to be, I think we open February 17th in Houston, Texas. And then lastly is that a film that I have a small role in, my brother's film that I have a small part in, is in the film festival circuit. If you want to go support it on social media or anything like that, is called The Dancing Monkey. And hopefully that will have a distributor or be on a streaming platform, but it's doing really well. And so, yeah, that will be something to hopefully look out for. And then I also want to plug my partner Jeremy G's my favorite show of his, which is Kaiji Ultimate Survivor, and then also right now Love Flops is premiering week by week on High Dive, and he is the lead in that, and he's absolutely incredible in that. So I just want to plug those things.
All right, and lastly, is there any Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or any other social medias for fans to follow you at?
Right now, the best way to contact me is, or I guess follow me more than contact me, is Annie_in_the_wild, which is my X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, handle. I might be making my Instagram public. I'm not sure. I've been pretty low key on it, but the best way to follow any of my voice acting stuff is through X or Twitter. So yeah, and I do not really have, I think, any other news coming out, but I think that's all.
All right. Well, thank you, Annie, for your time for this interview. It was my pleasure getting to talk to you about all these amazing titles and hear about your experiences. So thank you very much for that.
Thanks, Christian. It's been really nice talking with you, and I'm really grateful that I got this opportunity and that I got to talk with you.
Same here. I appreciate every minute of it. So thanks again.
Yeah.
And want to give a thank you to our viewers here for following this edition of the Ohio Guys. Thank you, everybody, and I will be see you in the next video. Bye now.